please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hi, very good afternoon. You're watching Your Stocks on CNBC TV18. I'm Ekta Batra and with me is Nigel D'Souza. Well, it's turning out to be a session which is a little sluggish at this point in time. So let's see, we have a lot of numbers still to reckon with. We had the UPL numbers and you can see the reaction on the screen. We also have the Dr. Reddy numbers that came out earlier. So two nifty stocks which have released their numbers and we're waiting. Maruti, they have the analyst call which is going to take place at 3 p.m. this afternoon. So you can expect the numbers anytime before that. Hi, Nigel.
Yeah, it appears that in fact the UPL numbers, the net profit number is better than expected, but just keep in mind, as our ticker team is telling us, there's a tax credit that compares with a tax expenditure. And the second factor is the finance cost has come in at around 110 crores. That compares with around 180 crores. So both those two factors, that's the reason why, in fact, the net profit number is looking much better. In terms of the market, we went all the way down to around 11,008, and from there we have bounced up. So the bulls will feel we have defended that 11,000 mark once. The 11,000 put as well is very, very active in today's trading session, telling you that they believe that yes, the 11,000 level we can defend. 11,050, that's going to be the crucial mark where the bulls and the bears will be fighting for. First up, let's run you through all the top stories. Selling seen across the board as in fact the market fails to sustain at higher levels. The indices, however, they come off the day's lows. The mid caps as well as small caps, they trade weak.
Government announces an 88,000 crore capital infusion plan for 20 public sector banks. Debt-laden banks get the most capital. Banks like UCO and IDBI rally.
And the US dollar tanks the most that we have seen in the last 10 months after the US Treasury Secretary says that the weak dollar is good for American trade. The dollar weakens. That's what's spurring a commodity rally across the board, with Brent crude pricing hitting $71 per barrel. That's the first time since 2014. Metals too trade at multi-month highs.
Dr. Reddy's reports a good Q3 as North American business does well sequentially while margins beat estimates. Biocon is weak after Q3 margins were under pressure due to lower licensing income and fixed costs due to the Malaysia facility, while NIIT Tech continues to rally on stellar numbers.
And anytime now, in fact, we'll be getting Maruti's numbers. Remember, it's set to report another strong performance. Double-digit volume growth is expected from the auto major.
And Pidilite Industries is on our radar now. This is after the company has posted what is a good set of Q3 numbers. The revenues have come in line with estimates and we have the margins which have expanded to 24% despite higher crude prices and the unchanged gross margins. We have Apurva Parekh, the Executive Director of Pidilite Industries, joining in now to discuss the numbers. Mr. Parekh, hi, thanks very much for joining in. Well, it was a good performance by the company this quarter. In fact, a lot of FMCG companies have done well with stronger commentary too. Would you attribute it to, say, a low base on a year-on-year basis, or is this a real revival of demand that we're seeing?
We find that the overall economic environment is steadily improving and that has helped sales growth.
Well, sir, so has sentiment improved in the rural as well as the urban segments equally?
We saw a strong growth rate across most of the town categories. Small town and rural grew at a faster pace.
Okay, but do you expect that trend to possibly continue?
Yes, we hope that trend may continue.
Okay. All right. Mr. Parekh, the other thing is, have you seen revival across channels? Does some weakness probably still persist according to you?
Wholesale channel continues to have some stress. And the retail channel is growing at a faster pace.
All right, so any specific geography where the weakness is?
No, there is no significant differences across geographies. Some states are growing at a faster pace, but overall, most of the states across India saw better improved growth rates during the quarter.
All right, so let's get a very basic question then going. What are the factors that led to an improved performance then?
So current quarter growth, is due to several factors. One is there was a lower base of last year due to demonetization in November of 2016. In addition to that, the economic environment is steadily improving. We as a company also took several steps, including focus on expanding the distribution, advertising, and several other initiatives which have helped improve sales growth.
Okay. Have you increased your expenditure when it comes to advertising? What is the trend going to be like?
No, our advertising spend was normal during this quarter. If you may recall, during the last quarter, our advertising spend was less than normal level. But during this quarter, it has come back to normal level, and we hope to continue spending at our normal levels, which is around 4% of net sales.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Parekh, we need to take a mandatory break at this point, but we're going to continue the conversation on the other side. So stay tuned. We'll be in conversation with the Pidilite management, Mr. Parekh, on the other side of this break.
Well, the bulls managed to defend the 11,000 odd mark today, and it appears there's a short straddle that's taking place as we speak. You pull up the 11,050 call, that should come up for you on the screen. Now, that's very, very active in today's trading session. But even the 11,050 put, so you put both those two together, that's the 11,050 call. The premium's around 25 rupees. But you also pull up the 11,050 put. That premium's around 15 rupees. So net, what you're receiving is around 40 rupees. Now, in fact, what traders will play for is that they're hoping the Nifty to hold on to that 11,000 mark. And in fact, on the upside, they're hoping for it not to cross the 11,100 mark. So that appears the trend that's that's emerging as we speak. The smart money appears to be writing both those two strikes. We're still holding on to the 11,050 odd mark. A good recovery from the low point of the day. Mid cap index, by the way, that's moved into the green. So keep an eye out on that front as well. But before we went into the break, we're telling you that we were in conversation with Apurva Parekh, the Executive Director of Pidilite. Well, sir, thanks so much for waiting by with us. Now, in fact, the segment that the street really wants to know about is the waterproofing segment. What's your performance there?
Most of our product categories saw good sales growth during the quarter. Waterproofing product, is an important product category for us, and that saw good demand and good sales growth during the quarter across most town categories.
But sir, you're the leader in waterproofing, right?
Right.
Okay. So what's the potential market size according to you, Mr. Parekh?
It's difficult to estimate the market size. There are no organized data available which gives a good estimate of the market size of construction chemicals. However, our belief is that this is still an under-penetrated category in India. The key task is to expand the market to increase the awareness of this product category, which would help us grow and expand the market size. So the market size at present is not that relevant, but since the penetration levels are low, the potential is much better.
Okay. In that case, some expected growth rate of this particular market?
See, we would not like to give any kind of an estimate. As you know, both for the company or our individual product categories, we do not like to give any kind of growth projection or growth outlook. However, we believe that this category has very significant potential, and we have done a lot of work over the last 15 to 20 years to establish our presence in this market, to increase the awareness of this product category, and we hope that this product categories will grow at good growth rate going forward. But we would not like to give any specific figure.
Okay, just wanted to actually talk to you a little bit about margins. Is it correct that you don't see any sort of pressure in terms of your margins? Can you just talk about what exactly your view is on raw materials? Are you cautious on it?
It's very difficult to estimate. The raw material price depend on several factors, including the dollar conversion rate, the crude oil prices, and demand and supply situation. So it's difficult to see how the prices of crude or the prices of some of our raw materials will move. But I just shared with you the current scenario. There has been some increase in price of raw material, which is partially mitigated by strengthening of rupee. And as we move forward, if there is a significant increase in raw material prices, we will take appropriate pricing actions.
Well, Mr. Parekh, various analysts, they have written on competition from other listed players. What steps have you taken to mitigate this competition?
In all our product categories, including adhesives and sealants, we are focused on all the fundamentals. Be it expansion of distribution, be it introduction of new and innovative products, advertising, below-the-line marketing activities. So we take all the steps which are necessary to maintain our market share or to strengthen our position in the market. So this is not one step, or this is not one particular activity, but clearly we take all the necessary actions and initiative to further strengthen our position in the market.
Pleasure talking to you, Mr. Parekh. Thanks so much for stopping by and, in fact, giving us all those views. But by the way, it's been pretty good for our markets as well. We've recovered close to around 40-45 points from the low point of today. So things looking good. ITC, that's the big heavyweight in there. That's fighting for the bulls. Mahindra and Mahindra, just take a look at the intraday chart. That stock as well has recovered considerably. And in fact, SBI, that as well was dragging the Nifty. Now, in fact, it's still down close to around 3.5%, but it's making some attempt to recover from the low point of the day. Good to see that, in fact, that we are seeing some bit of a recovery, though in fact the mid-cap index has moved back into the red. Even the Nifty Bank that briefly moved into the green, that as well has moved into the red. In fact, HDFC Bank is fighting for it, so that's why in fact it's more or less even Stevens as we speak. Well, we'll slip into a short break, come back. We'll keep an eye out on the markets. We'll also try to squeeze in a couple of queries.
Well, the World Economic Forum is underway in Davos. Let's cut now across to Shireen Ban, who's in conversation with the Nobel laureate Kailash Satyarthi on the sidelines of the forum.
Perpetuators. So that is very much needed because everything is fragmented. And this agency should have a cross-border jurisdiction. Okay. It can work anywhere in the world. Secondly, I am demanding a global traffickers and sex offenders registry for naming and shaming those people. Thirdly, I call upon different UN agencies dealing with different parts like trafficking, then migration issue or refugee issue. So IOM, UNHCR, ILO, UNODC. They work in compartments. They should come together because these issues are so intermingled. So I'm calling for more coordinated approach on them. Fourthly, if we have to stop slavery from the beginning as preventive measures, we have to ensure education for all children. And that means world needs only $40 billion as an additional expenditure to ensure education for all children in primary and secondary classes. And that is not a big deal. It is less than a week-long global military expenditure. So put money, invest money on education to ensure that every child is in a school and would not be vulnerable for trafficking and slavery.
Now, what is the specific message as far as India is concerned in terms of policy response, policy action? Here you were talking more about the global framework, but specifically for India, what is it that you want the government to take forward?
India does not have a law against human trafficking, unfortunately.
All right, then, even that pullback that we saw quickly got sold into. Wipro, in fact, is reeling under pressure. And in fact, UPL posted its numbers. That stock is down now close to around 4.5%. So some money being taken off the table even in terms of UPL. Infosys as well as struggling. The IT sector on the whole, the index that was doing very, very well for this series itself, it was up close to around 15%. That's shaved off some part of the gain. So the IT index should come up for you. That's down 1.5%. But let's move on then. I think we have some, some source-based information that's coming in there. Even a Jet Airways is waiting with open arms for foreign investors to put in some equity into the company. DGCA data shows that Jet has kept passengers waiting longer and longer. Now, data shows that Jet has seen a big drop in on-time performance. Utkarsh joins in with further details. Well, Utkarsh, how big is this drop? And really, I hate to be kept waiting. I'm taking a flight tomorrow, so I'm interested in what you have to say, Utkarsh.
Nigel, the OTP data says that a 52.2% is the on-time performance of Jet. That means that out of every 2 flights, 1 flight is delayed. Now, to just give you some perspective, so that it's January, and in January normally the OTP performances of airlines go down because of fog. But to just check that, is it all the airlines which has gone down, or is it only Jet Airways? I'll read the data for all the other airlines. Indigo's OTP is 81%, SpiceJet is 78%, Vistara 74%, and even Air India is 70%. The closest to Jet Airways is a go-ahead, which is at 68.4%. And this is not one-time incident, Nigel. If you look at it, it's been a sequential drop from a 69% in September, 64, and now it has come to a 52%. So clearly a major drop and an issue of worry for Jet Airways passengers if you are really going so that your flight can be delayed.
Okay, Utkarsh, thanks very much for that. But I have to add, Nigel, I took a jet flight recently, and actually it took off early.
Oh.
It reached earlier than anticipated. So I think that might have been a one-off. But nonetheless,
you got lucky.
Nonetheless, we need to take a break now. We'll focus on more queries once we're back.
Well, we're struggling to find green actually today on the screen, but DB Realty, that's one stock that in fact has spiked up in the last few minutes. I think you should just pull up the intraday chart, rocket it seems. Suddenly that stock has spiked up, but otherwise we're trading in the red. Final 60 minutes of the January series comes up. We'll wrap up on this show. You stay tuned. Closing bell comes up next.